Youth level sports are declining in the USA. There's Pacers game 6, and for some reason, I'm thinking about the decline in youth sports in the USA. And this report I made for LeBron that had this section that talked about it. So, what's the implications and the impact of that? Let's get into it.
He's heating
Hey,
up.
what's up? I'm X. I run Perspective Reports. I used to be a corporate analyst, and I always forget to film my face. Back in 2022, I self-published a 75-page research report that was intended for LeBron James and his team, and it was about maximizing and expanding his partnerships while also growing grassroots level youth sports because as I mentioned in the beginning, youth level sports in the USA are declining. And now, 3 years later, I want to see if that's still true. That's the whole point of this video. We're just going to retroactively look at this report in different spaces and places. This is just being the first video on that. And I think it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of data, a lot of numbers, but I think you all can hang and stay with it because there's a lot of really interesting insights. And if you want to cite this or use this for your own purposes, go ahead. Perspective Reports is like if Wikipedia had a strategy department. It's intended for everybody to use. One last thing, our website, perspectivereports.com, we're working on our strategy hub and topics and report portal that you will be able to access all this information on our website with that. So stay tuned for the end of the video where we'll preview that. So let's talk about data sources. We use a lot of Google Trends. I'm not going to hold you. There's a lot of Google Trends in this. But the idea behind Perspective Reports is that we are using the wide open internet to answer pressing questions in strategy and business, as well as any consultancy like McKinsey or BCG or any other think tank could, because we believe the internet has really all the answers, whether that's financial data, stock data, search data, census, government data. There's a lot of stuff on the internet. So that's where we're coming from. I just want to be honest and straight up with you guys. However, we're trying to work on growing out our potential to take in first person data, which is survey data. We want to get participation from the audience across our website and more to, our portfolio. We have TikTok, Instagram, just to kind of build out that potential because I love data and I love sourcing data, but it's like, how do you do that? And I think that's growing our audience and telling you guys how we're trying to do that is one way. So second thing second, I'm posting a short alongside this video that's basically an overarching review of the whole report from a high level view, but it's a short, so it's 2 minutes. So go watch that if you want to just get an overview to prep you for this video. But yeah, we're going to bring up the first slide. So when I was going into this stuff, I was really surprised at how, I guess, directional Google Trends was. I was coming off of 6 straight years of being a corporate analyst where our data sources are just a little bit different. We don't like to rely on things like Google Trends, even though they still did. Within corporate world, people think they have access to all this data. They do and they don't, but they really don't. But with the rise of AI, machine learning, data science growing, and the importance of having like robust data systems, people want dashboards that actually tell them, important stuff and how to actually run their businesses, right? Which is great, but that's why I think Google Trends is so nice because it's just so simple. It's so straightforward. It's just people searching for stuff. So I would type in stuff like high school sports and see where was the direction of it. And I would, export it out, clean the data, get a, direct trend. And then I would just do a Google search and see what news articles said to verify it. And a lot of what I was seeing on Google Trends turned out to be true. There were so many articles who talked about the decline in youth sports. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I see a decline every year since 2004 about high school sports. It's funny that the New York Times, the LA Times are writing articles talking about the decline in youth sports. And this was a trend before the pandemic, and it's kind of a trend after the pandemic, kind of looking into it. But really, it's just within this first slide, I have here sport is declining at the non-elite and local level because that's really what's happening. When you look at the professionalization of everything, right, it's strong growth, whether that's football interest around the world. Originally, this report was about how LeBron James had a partnership deal with Fenway Sports, who manages marketing rights, but Fenway Sports Group also owns Red Sox, Liverpool, Pittsburgh Penguins, among other things. So it was kind of seeing where that overlap was. So that's why I have like a search interest behind, college football, American football, cricket. It was just a diverse range of sports to kind of, pad out what we're looking at. But really what you see is just anything that has prime time or has significant eyeballs and revenue coming from advertisement and viewership is doing strong because that's where the infrastructure and money's being put behind. But anything that was more grassroots, like the stuff, basically anything that was at the level before they got you to prime time was declining. And that included youth American football interest, high school sports search interest, college sports searches, football interest in Mexico, funny enough, tennis global interest overall, football interest, grassroots football interest in Brazil declining, youth sport interest in the USA, obviously, already said that, Olympic Games global interest declining. I think that goes right along with it because most Olympic sports are youth sports. And then NCAA search interest, which obviously college level sports, is just overall declining. And now we're going to focus in on the second slide for the sports of basketball and football. Soccer, I should say, football. So I used international. Anyway, I grew up in a multicultural home. We loved watching the World Cup growing up, so I said football and soccer growing up. But I grew up in the States, so anyway, basketball itself shows a lot of what we're speaking to, where youth basketball, AAU basketball, high school basketball has a lot of decline. The only place that I see any growth is actually high school basketball searches in the USA, which makes sense because, a lot of the stars are coming, right? By the time people are end of high school, right, they're already talking about your NBA draft lottery status, right? So, but it says a lot that school basketball worldwide interest is declining. It's not just a USA thing. And that's kind of like my point, is that it's a little sad to see. And then when you look on the flip side with soccer, strong growth overall because soccer is the most popular sport in the world. So you expect everything to be growing double digits, crazy numbers. But in fact, things like Brazil football search interest and Indonesia's football search interest, which, fun fact, Brazil is the number one. Well, actually, England probably is the number one search interest for soccer worldwide, funny enough. But Brazil's number 2, but Indonesia is like 4 or 5. So Indonesia and Brazil declining is not good for global soccer because both those countries have over 200 million people, so you want those people watching. But I really wanted to talk about, like, what is the pool of youths, right? What are we talking about? Let's put a hard number. How many young Americans are out there? And I pulled up a data stat. Again, this is all from 2022, so 3 years ago, right? Persons under the age of 5 make up 5.7% of the US population. People under 18 years old in 2022 made up 22% of the US population. And if you're going to put a number to it, from under 5 years old to the ages of 15 to 19 in the USA, basically each one of those blocks, right? Under 5, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, all of them have 20 million cohorts, so 20 million individuals. So basically there's 80 million young people in this country, or at least there were in 2022, 3 years from now, right? So I guess some of those 15 to 19 are considered adults now, but still, that's a lot of kids, man. There's still a lot of kids. So clearly it's not a numbers game. It's not like we're losing kids. It's not like the youth sport is declining because, there's not enough kids being born. While some people are fearful about a population shift or demographic shift in that way, we're still, there's enough youth to replace the athlete, you know what I mean? To be, producing more athletes. That's not the issue yet. However, there are demographic shifts, right? Cultural shifts because of diversification. I mean, that's one of the key points, that big cities grew, they became more diverse, but especially among the youth, right? Because the people being born now, I think we're at 50% are non-white in the USA at this point, or the birth. So any baby being born in the USA, half of them are white, half of them are non-white. And while that trend will maybe, change certain sports, like maybe you'll see things like cricket become more popular, or rugby, or, soccer, we've already seen, right, become more popular. Overall, it has not yet fundamentally changed the landscape, but the indicators of that change are starting to be seen.